All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Tennis Channel Inside In on the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. Mitch Michals, as always, from the Santa Monica studios. Delighted to bring you another show this week. A special guest, first time on the show, so I always like introducing new guests. A French tennis player, still very much active, we're going to get to, but also working for television and broadcasting, Eurosport. You've also seen her, if you're a Tennis Channel fan, on Tennis Channel Academy, going around the world, finding different ways to learn and play the game at an elite level. Alize Lim, welcome to the show. I was looking forward to this one. It took a while to schedule, but I'm glad you're on the podcast.
I'm glad we made it. Hey, thanks for having me. I so wish this was live and we would be together in LA right now, because you have no idea about the weather in Paris. It's really cold. But thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I could complain with you, but I feel like our audience, the first person problems of the weather in Paris might not be it might not be as funny for them. But
That
no,
sounds
I
very
do appreciate
shallow.
it.
But I think this winter, I think it was a record of amount of rain, and it really affects your mood at some point.
I know. Do you and I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but did you watch the tennis in Germany in Munich, the men's tournament last weekend? Speaking of weather and just insanity.
Yeah, I saw a little bit. I heard it was even snowing. Oh my God. Yeah, it's the worst, because it changes so much and the ball doesn't go anywhere. Your hands are freezing. You're struggling to toss the ball when you serve. Oh, no.
Yeah, Felix Auger-Aliassime team had gloves on at the changeover, and I'm like, this guy's Canadian and he's cold. How is everybody else feeling right now?
Yeah, I guess
So,
Europeans are more used to it, because especially
yeah.
in France, when we play indoors, we always have gloves on the left hand also.
No, that's an interesting part of it too. And just kind of for your perspective, I know you covered Monte Carlo. We're going to get to a lot here on this show, but I wanted to know how your life's been these last couple of years, because you're still an active tennis player, but you've kind of transitioned into broadcast media as well. You're kind of, if I have this right, kind of playing tennis at your own pace and working through things in your life at your own schedule. How has the last couple of years been an unconventional approach to playing pro tennis?
That's a good way to say it. I haven't decided of a direction of it. I just knew at some point I really wanted to try other things, and maybe not give the full priority to tennis anymore, just because I was curious. I had opportunities. I was injured. I also had to go back from down into smaller tournaments. So it was a lot of factors that made me want to switch the priorities, but my love for tennis was still so present and so strong that I never had the courage, let's say, to say I'm done, because it didn't feel like it. And these things you can't decide with your brain. It has to be within yourself that you feel you're over tennis, over it, and that wasn't the case. So as strange as it sounded, because I was doing other things, I wasn't traveling anymore on the tour. I would still practice, and I would say I'm trying to keep my level just in case I want to come back. I don't want to be too far, and I want to be back in like a month or so, because I know if you let it go, then it's too complicated. And I decided to play some team matches, some money tournaments, just so I would keep a little bit of adrenaline and competition, because I would miss it. And even though I was super excited about the other challenges that I experienced, it's never the same. So yeah, until
Yeah.
recently, this year 2024, I decided, okay, I think it's important to close that chapter properly. And I decided I'm happy about what I did for the past 3-4 years. I feel like I know more about what I would like to do in the future. I have seized the opportunities too. So maybe it's time now to give it time again, to close that chapter properly, and give it a last shot, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, and your, unfortunate injury history, which is a part of the sport, not being able to say goodbye on your terms, and that's a very interesting way to put it, because no one really gets to go out on the dream. Like, it's very rare to go out on top, winning the last tournament, but to go out feeling healthy and feeling like you were able to, regardless of what the level is a very big accomplishment. Have you also noticed? I know a lot of it is the women that are coming back from pregnancy, but I have noticed that tennis nowadays, there's players that are coming back, that they're able to, at in their 30s even, make runs and come back to the pro game and really say goodbye in the way that they want to. I feel like that's a good way the game has gone the last couple of years, Alize, is that players are able to come back, whether it's after an injury or after having a kid. They're able to come back to the pro game and kind of finish it the best they can on their own terms.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, yeah, you see so many of these women now older on the tour. So it gives you hope, and it's possible because I guess we're more precise about fitness and recovery, so that helps play longer. For me right now, I just know it's about my body. It's about how my body will recover, how I will get over injuries and be able to play back to back weeks. That's the only question mark, because I haven't played for a while, and I mean, in that at that intensity. But yeah, I think it's really inspiring, coming back to what you were saying, seeing more and more women traveling on the tour with babies actually and their husbands, and
Yeah,
it's really cool. It gives the tour a new atmosphere, and it's not just
yeah,
17-year-olds, little girls, coming up there. So I like the mix of everyone. It's more,
yeah.
yeah, it's richer. Can you say that in English? Like,
Cool, Richard. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's almost like the tour needs like a daycare center as well now with all the kids that are just running around.
I
And you
actually
and you
think some of the slams have it.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. And you could also say smarter too, right? Like you're a little older and the players that are in their 30s, you're a little smarter. Fair to say than you were maybe at 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, you know exactly what you need, so you don't need. Of course, you will put less hours in, because anyways your body won't let you go that many hours on the court anymore like you were doing when you were 15. But you know exactly what you need, so
Yeah.
it's about being more precise about your doing, smarter. It's about maybe having a little bit of a step back instead of maybe you get too emotional like before, and yeah, take it with a little bit more distance. That can help you play more freely, I would say. Hopefully, I
When
mean
you
that's
were
what
a
that's
young,
that's on the
yes,
paper, but hopefully this is what's gonna happen
yeah,
for me as well. But that's what all the women that
yeah.
had babies I've interviewed have said to me.
Yeah, no, I think it's very fair to say you're training harder, you're training smarter, not harder, because you have less hours in the day and you have, your body gets older and adjusts with that too. I completely agree. I did want to ask you though, the work for Eurosport, the work for Tennis Channel, when you were a young woman and not even, even before the tennis career really took off, did you see yourself as a broadcaster or did this just happen organically?
Not at all. It's really, the first time was for French TV during French Open, and it just said, "Do you wanna?" It was interviewing other players in the players lounge, really. So to me it was asking questions to my mates, to my colleagues. So it wasn't even a job, it's
Yeah.
just another activity. And then next thing you know, it's one more thing and one more thing, and I'm starting to realize right now that it's an actual job, but to me it was just a hobby. So
Yeah.
yeah, discovering a new experience, but I never took it too seriously. Obviously, like, I try to do my best and get better and everything, but no, I never planned on doing this. It just happened, and I was, every time I had an opportunity, I was curious, I went for it, and this is how it went.
Yeah, it's been fun to see. It's been interesting to see your adjustment to it. I think, I was going to ask you what your favorite parts of it are. It seems like when you get to interview the players, that the one-on-one interviews that you have with players, it seems like you really stand out there. Also, you have that, and I'm coming from a point of a little bit of jealousy too. You have that instant credibility and likability because they know who you are. They've seen you around. Like you said, it started asking questions to your mates. The interviews you conduct, whether it be Djokovic or Tsitsipas in Monte Carlo, it seems like there's that lack of real formality there, where it's just a friendly conversation.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you're a tennis player instantly, I mean, you can be jealous. They're always nicer to tennis
I
players,
know.
and
I
thank you
know.
for that. Like, we're a club, I guess.
Yeah.
And actually,
Yeah.
it was funny you mentioned Carlos. The first times I interviewed him, I thought he's so young that he probably has no idea I even played, and probably thinks I'm a journalist, which I thought was funny. But yeah, I think they feel safe when other tennis players interview them. They know we're not here to trick them or to make they say something to, I don't know, keep our job or make the big news or big titles. And I even very often laugh about it with my producer, who helps me write the questions sometimes, and he'll say, "You should ask this," and I look at him, "This is a journalist question." And he always laughs about it, when it's too journalist or giving numbers or asking. I know some questions are going to be uncomfortable. I say to him, this sounds like an interesting question to you, but I know if someone asks me that question, I know I'm not going to answer
Mhm.
something honest, because what am I going to say? I'm going to say the journalist answer, and I don't want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, the collaboration side is interesting. You pulling the curtain back where you know what the tennis players are thinking, what they might want to be asked about, what they might not want to be asked about, and then you have somebody that provides a little structure to ask it in a way and ask the meat of the question. No, it's a fascinating thing, and I say that in jest with the jealousy side of things, but I do think that having the ability to know, even in the course of a match, if you're interviewing someone post match, Alize, okay, this happened, something interesting happened here, let me ask about this because I know that this was either a key point of the match or something that might be weighing positively or negatively on a player. So you have that insight that very few have.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm lucky enough to, with those amazing access that I have that I didn't even have as a player when we were in players box. We're not even that close, and now I can be courtside on the court, so I can feel so much of the emotions that they can have or hear what they talk about with their players, and it feels so familiar because when I was at tournaments, I would support my friends, and we would talk to each other as well, so it feels the same. So of course, yeah, and I feel more
Yeah.
comfortable to just say something very simple, after the match, and
Yeah.
like, oh my god, that forehand, that 2-all, I mean, did you stress about it? And I know if you're a journalist, you're not going to be able to say that.
Yeah, and just to kind of put a bow on this, Monte Carlo was where you were at. Is that really? I mean, it seems like it's as good as advertised, but is that just like one of the more special? The atmosphere you can't beat, but it just seems like the city itself and the surrounding sounds of tennis is tough to top the Monte Carlo Masters.
Yeah, it is. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't even, my eyes I wouldn't be
Yeah,
able to lie. It's
yeah,
amazing. It's really, I've been to this club a few times before. I've hit there, I've practiced there, and to me it's the most beautiful club in the world, at least that I've been to. So already playing in such a beautiful place is amazing. Then yeah, it's clay, so it's the kickoff of the clay, so it's a little bit of a party. It's a Masters 1000, so you have all the best players. Unfortunately, some of them were injured this year, and the weather was amazing. And like you say, the city too, Monaco, it's so small, so it's a little bit of a village, which means that everyone stays at different places, but we could all join each other for last minute dinner. Where are you? I'll join you, and it's easy. So you get to catch up with everyone at the same time. This is really cool.
Well, more with Alize Lim here on Tennis Channel Inside In. I wanted to ask you about the women's game right now too, because it's an interesting time. We're going to the clay court season. First things first, Iga Swiatek just hit 100 weeks at number one, and I don't think many people out there just understand just how insane that is. We've kind of been spoiled with the Serena Williams era, and before that, Steffi Graf, and just the very best of the game. But Iga's in rarefied air. There's very few women that have done that, and especially as we hit her favorite surface, Alize, someone so young and with a lot more tennis to give. Iga's resume at this age is just phenomenal and doesn't seem to be an end in sight, especially on the clay.
No, she has the drive. She always tries to get better. And like you said, the clay is coming. And yeah, like you said, people don't realize because they only watch them on TV. So they make it normal. It seems normal to them. But and it's the same with the boys. If you look at Rafa and Roger, this is just alien things that they do. And Iga, what she does, like you said, at such a young age, winning slams, back-to-back French Opens, and the way, also the mentality that she has every time she loses a match or is a little bit more down, she always questions herself to be better. She has such a champion mentality, and I think it's amazing for tennis because besides maybe Serena, like we've talked about before, we had some amazing stars that would have like a great moments, but then we would wait and would be a little bit disappointed, and it's so hard to be
Mhm.
stable. And this is
Yeah.
not normal. Like I like to say that when they keep winning, and this is not the normal part, because uh staying up there is the toughest. Everyone's
Yeah.
chasing you. She's mentioned it in the past, and she has so much more that she can do. She's so young, and she has the great mentality. So I'm sure she will improve even more and win many more slams.
Yeah, her idol is Rafael Nadal, and I think the most apt comparison we've said is the process is everything. So when you win, you treat it as such. You don't get too high, you don't get too low with a loss. You go back to work day in, day out. And yeah, tennis is the closest thing to combat sports in the sense of it's one on one. And when you win, they're going to make adjustments to try to beat you. So to stay on top with people constantly adjusting to beat you is really remarkable. But Alize, it's not going to be smooth sailing entirely because Elena Rybakina wins Stuttgart, and that is a player that we've kind of circled. Iga's clearly the best player on clay, but there's something about Rybakina's game. She beat her again in Stuttgart. She beats Kostyuk in the final. That serve, the ability, the underrated ability to move, it's definitely good movement for someone her size. Rybakina on any surface, especially clay, is definitely a dark horse and someone to watch out for.
Yeah, of course. I think it's a great rivalry. Also, like the one we had last year with Sabalenka, between Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek. The Rybakina is super interesting because I mean she has such great shots, and she's so smooth and so calm and really one of a kind for that. Like I love the fact that we have Sabalenka that's super emotional, and then we have Rybakina who doesn't show anything and seems like cold ice. So
Yeah.
it makes women's tennis super interesting. Her shots are so clean, and her serve is so big. So with such a big serve, and it's I think it allows her to not have too many bad days. So it
Yeah.
will make her stay up there for a very long time. I would say though that Stuttgart is indoors. Like you said, she
Hmm.
doesn't like clay so much. Let's see. I'm sure she has. I mean, she can improve so much. She has so many years ahead of her. I'm sure every year will be better for her on clay. Stuttgart is a very slippery surface. You can't really defend there. So usually big hitters and big servers can excel there and have a little bit of the advantage. So I think it was a great tournament for her to win.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you would know more than most about the differences, like Madrid with the altitude, how not all red clay in Europe is the same. I would just point out that Rybakina is, because you're not going to outbeat Iga on clay in terms of the all court game. She's the best in the world at that. But if you have a serve that I would say is the best serve in women's tennis, you hit big and you're fearless and you're going for your shots. That's really the best. I don't want to say only, but that's the best chance to beat Iga. So she Iga deserves to be a prohibitive favorite going into the French Open, but what Rybakina can do, and yeah, that serve. I mean, if you face a serve like that, Alize, I don't know what the strategy is other than to just get it in play and try to work your way into the rally because how she disguises it is where I'm constantly amazed. I think there's bigger servers, but the variety and how she disguises the serve puts Rybakina in the class by herself.
Yeah, even when you're not facing her and you're watching from other angles, TV angles, it's tough to see because her toss is very similar. It's the you can't really tell. You never can tell where she plays. I don't know if she works on that on purpose. You know what? Actually, next time I interview her, I'm gonna ask her if it's something natural
Yeah.
that she has. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
love the fact that the all three of them with Sabalenka pull each other up, and I love the way that Sabalenka last year said at practice, she would think of Iga. She would think, she's beaten me so many times. This is how I'm going to beat her. I need to get better physically. And I'm sure with Rybakina, it's the same. And this is probably why also now she's improved so much on clay. She's motivated by getting to the level
Yeah.
of Iga as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting to see how they all play at the French Open.
Yeah, would you say right now most pressing for Rybakina in terms of just tennis and other things in her life would be getting a driver's license? Because she got that Porsche, but she actually doesn't have a driver's license. So maybe that's like the number one goal.
I know, right? It's so sad. Actually, I'm not gonna say names, but it was the same in Monaco a few days ago. We were players and looking for a ride, and this tennis player said, "Well, I have a car that I won, but I don't have a driver license. It drives me crazy. They get all these amazing cars." Well, I guess she has to do it during off season, because that has to be motivating. But the thing is, when you travel so
Yeah.
much and you train all the time, you don't even get time to do these things. She needs to find a way to do it the
Yeah.
accelerated way.
I know. I know that was just so funny. Her in the passenger seat celebrating that car that she got. It was perfect. Other things I just wanted to mention too. Shout out to Marta Kostyuk making the final of that tournament. That was 3 top 10 victories and had to fight to do it. A player that we've all saw, Alize, is someone that has potential, has started to put it together, and is a real fighter out there. Those were 3 matches she easily could have lost, saved match points in a few of them. This is the best run of her life, and at her age, you've got to think it's going to keep going, and she's going to keep climbing.
Yeah, of course. I remember actually her making her when she came through at the Australian Open when she was super young, and you already saw that mentality that she has and how much of a fighter she is, and I think that's her biggest strength. I think the next few years we were maybe waiting a little bit more of a backup, and then it's hard. It takes time, so it's really nice to see that she's getting to this level now, and she with the mentality that she has. I'm sure, of course, it's just the beginning for her. Her game is she has such good strokes, and she moves really well, and she have the desire and the hunger. And you know what? At the end of the day, when the hunger is there, and you're not
Yeah.
injured, this is maybe the most important.
She shows a lot of emotion out there, and I like that because obviously it's passion. Not every player is so demonstrative, I'll say. I don't know if you were like that, but she's very, very animated on court, but it doesn't get in the way of her tennis, which is a good thing. I do want to wind this conversation down with Alize Lim talking about a couple other things. One being, you got the chance to talk to Rafael Nadal in the last couple months, and we know Nadal's giving his final push, and we'll see how that goes as he looks to say goodbye properly and go out with a bang and a good final run. But the quote from the interview with you that I thought was so interesting was he said that he was so shocked that he even won 1 Grand Slam. Like, it was just such a
Yeah,
fascinating look into the lens of a guy who's accomplished it all, who's won 14 French Opens that will never in our lifetimes ever happen again. But he was shocked that he could even accomplish 1 Grand Slam. And it just shows you the mind of a genius that takes it literally as a one day at a time.
exactly. You know, when psychologists tell you stay in the present, this is the definition of it. And you know what? When you interview players, sometimes they're used to talking about they've been interviewed so much that they can you can tell if they're just used to saying this or if they actually feel it. And what was shocking to me with Rafa is that it was so authentic. He said it to me like it was the first time he even thought about it, and it was so you could tell he was so sure. He's not lying. It's not storytelling kind of thing. He was literally he said to me every single slam that I won, I thought, okay, this is the last one. That's it. Like there's no chance. And there's no way that winning those slams would make him be less nervous the time after, because every time it's back to zero. So I thought that was
Yeah.
super inspiring, and it makes you feel like you're talking to someone normal, where definitely it's not. He's definitely not.
No. It's interesting too, right? Because it's genuine. With other players, it might not be, but when you hear him say after every match, "This is a tough match. He's a great opponent. I got to be ready." Like his interview going into the next match makes it sound like he's playing Federer, Djokovic, Alcaraz every time. That's how much respect he has for his opponent and for the game of tennis.
Yeah, of course, and this is how, anyways, everyone should think of a tennis match, because you never know what's going to happen, and you don't know how you're going to feel, how your opponent's going to feel, the wind, the conditions, the sun, and if you don't have that mentality, I mean, it's easy to lose to anyone. You can play your average level and someone is playing the match of their lives, and there you go. So I think it's such an inspiration that he thinks like that and takes everyone so seriously. He's so humble. He respects everyone. And what I wanted to say also is, when we talked about the 2022 Australian Open finals against Medvedev, he said, "Oh, I was sure I was going to lose that match. 100% I was going to lose it. And I just thought, okay, let's just fight and we'll see what happens." And that was also so authentic. And I
Yeah.
loved it. You would think, oh, Rafa has such a great mentality that,
Mhm.
okay, he's down, he believes. And no, I mean, he thinks he's going to lose. But, anyways, his drive to fight is stronger, and that makes him win, anyways. I loved it.
That's that American time old phrase, right? You fake it until you make it. Like, in the back of his mind, he's like, "I'm going to lose, but I'm still going to just keep fighting." And no, he's incredible. I really do hope that he gets to go out with a good run, and the sport just keeps moving on. That's just how it works. Well, Alize, the last thing I wanted to ask you, I got to talk about the Tennis Channel Academy features that you were a part of, and I thought it was pretty cool because as someone on the outside of tennis, and you being in the inside and being an expert on all this, the different ways that people are taught. There's no one right or wrong way to make a pro tennis player and to develop high level tennis players. So talk to us a little bit about what it was like going to the Everett Academy, IMG, Nadal Academy, as we just talked about, and what were the differences and similarities that you learned going to these high level academies?
Wow. Oh, it takes me back to, yeah, this was like two years ago. I loved it. I was so excited because when I was little, I wanted to go to academies so much, and my parents couldn't afford it. So it's like, oh my god, finally now I'm getting my dream to come true. The similarity is the hard work. No, there's no secret. Well, no matter where you go, if it's cold, if it's indoors, outdoors, American way of doing it or Spanish, it's the same. It's hard work, it's the mentality, it's the hours you put in, and there's no other way. Then I mean, the difference is, it would be super specific to get into each and every one, but of course, what I loved about Everett was that they have a psychologist, and that they do a lot of talks about pressure for young kids. Each academy had their own strength, I would say. And for example, IMG has amazing facilities, so you have all
Yeah.
these you have this huge place where you can do all these tests for your body and your sleep and the food, and testing your blood and everything. So it's very scientific and very high performance. um yeah, I'm trying to think each and everyone, and I think in an academy that's smaller, like Tipsarevic, it's more
Hmm.
Tipsarevic himself. It's the person that gives the philosophy and the atmosphere around.
Yeah.
So it really depends. And Rafa, it's an amazing facilities. They have so much space that they're growing all the time, and and
Yeah.
I mean, the sun. Everyone would love to go there. Everything's
Yeah.
new, and you have all these quotes of Rafa on the court. On the, let's say, the lights. How do you say it?
Yeah.
You're training, and then you're gonna pick up the
Yeah.
ball, and then you see, I play every point like this is the last one, and I might die. I'm gonna die for it. And you're like, okay, let's do this. It's very motivational.
Yeah, I love that one, the hologram of him walking in, all the donated stuff that was given by other athletes. And yeah, the Everett one, the coaches meeting that you got to sit in was very fascinating because I'd never seen that before, where they're literally planning out the day. What do we need to work on to bring out the best in these players? So no, I think it's great, and I hope to see more of those. And Alize Lim, a pleasure as always. We're gonna have to do this again. Maybe not like a 9-10 hour time difference between chats, but I know you've got a lot more to give to the world of tennis on and off the court. So I do appreciate you coming on the podcast, Tennis Channel Insight, and you're welcome back anytime. But appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm definitely gonna knock on your door next time I'm in LA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unannounced too. That's even better. But
Yeah.
thanks again. Appreciate you.